If you're watching this video, you probably want to move to New York and you want to figure out how. So I'm going to tell you my experience of moving to New York and give you some tangible tips on making the move yourself. The first thing to note that as an Australian, there is a special visa called the E3 visa. This visa is exclusively for Aussies, but it's a work-based visa, which means that you need to have a job offer and you also have to be working in a specialty field, which just means you either have at least a bachelor's degree or you have equivalent work experience, where for every 1 year of your degree you didn't do, that's equivalent to 3 years of relevant work experience. So let's say you never went to uni and you have 12 years working in sales, that would count as a university degree. But if you, let's say, went to uni for half the time, but you're fresh out of it and you decided to drop out and you don't have any work experience, you won't have the equivalent of a bachelor's degree, and therefore you will not be able to get an E3. A couple other visas that you should also be aware of is the L1 visa and the O1 visa. The L1 visa is for a intra-company transfer. So let's say that you work for a Big Four accounting firm, maybe you work for Macquarie Bank, or any company that has an Australian entity, but also a US subsidiary or parent company, and you've worked at the Australian entity or the overseas entity for at least 1 year, you would qualify for an L1 visa, and you can bring this up internally with your company. And for founders, if you don't qualify for an E3 visa, a lot of founders are on E3s, but some founders maybe don't have a degree or just have something that disqualifies them from an E3 visa. The O1 is your other pathway, or as well an E2 visa, which is the treaty investor visa. And this is great for when you might have started a fresh company and maybe you've got some fresh investment, because technically you need to invest some money in the US, but your attorney will be able to help you with the exact specifics of that. Your other option in terms of visas is getting a J1 visa. A lot of Australians do it this way, where you can just come to America and you'll find a job within 90 days, usually an entry-level position, so like working at a bar, at a cafe, and this just gets you to America as soon as possible. Very similar to the E3, it only takes like 1 to 2 months to actually get it, and it's a very straightforward process to do it. You can also come to the US and study. That is another option. The issue with studying is that it's very hard to actually like live here if you haven't got money saved up or have another income stream. Say your parents are helping pay for it, because on the F1 visa, which is the student visa, you are not allowed to work, or you are very limited to where you can work. How do you get a job? You can look at going through a job board. For instance, Migrate Mate has a job board with 500,000 jobs across America that sponsor visas, including E3 visas. You can go into LinkedIn and reach out to people that are already in New York or in the city that you want to move to. I would really recommend that you reach out to people who went to your university, because you can go and strike up a conversation, and maybe these people work at a company you want to work at, or they work in a role that you eventually want to work at. You reach out to maybe like 100, and just know that there is a law of large numbers, which is that like at some point people will respond to you. Let's say from that 100 that you reach out to, maybe 5 to 10 actually get back to you, and now all of a sudden you have Zooms set up with them. Maybe you go and visit America, right? And you go and meet these people in real life, chat with them. Maybe they have an opening for an intern position, maybe they have an opening for an entry-level role, or just like someone new on the team. Go and take that with both hands. So hopefully that like covers the first aspect of moving to the US, which is ideally finding a job and getting a visa. And if you would actually like to get visa help, feel free to reach out to me using the link below. I actually do free consultations helping people get their E3 visas to the US for only $499 US. It's part of my job as the co-founder and CEO of Migrate Mate, to really just be able to help you come over here and experience what we all do here in the Big Apple. Now, let's say that you've got your job and visa sorted. The next thing to do is actually finding a place to live. Now, you might have a chat with your employer. Maybe they'll cover your relocation expenses, or maybe they won't. But what you're going to need to do is just like immediately find a place to live. In New York, it's super expensive to get a hotel, and I would really recommend subleasing. There's a lot of incredible Facebook groups that you can find a place to sublease from. Namely, Australians in New York's a great one, or let's say you're going to another city, like Australians in San Francisco and whatnot. There's tons of subleasing groups. There's also tons of Aussie specific ones. And these are your best bet in terms of finding a place to stay very early on. It's how I found a place when I first moved to New York 3 years ago. I managed to find a sublease for a month and it was absolutely amazing. Strongly recommend doing that. And the reason why I recommend subleasing is because renting is very hard when you don't have a credit score, when you don't have a social security number, and when you don't have a bank account, a US bank account specifically. And so like it really is like your only option until you get those things sorted. And when you're ready to go and find a place of your own, firstly in New York, the place to look is Street Easy. You should also chat with your friends here. Maybe they've got a broker who you should chat to, because brokers can be very helpful in terms of finding places that might not be on Street Easy, because there is a huge non-public market in New York in terms of finding an apartment, but brokers can sometimes cost money or they'll do some interesting stuff, so just be aware of that. It's also likely that when you go and find a place to rent that you'll want to get roommates. It's a lot more affordable with roommates because a one bed in the city can cost between like 4 to 5K at like a very like median baseline, but when you have roommates, that really like drops it down considerably. The least amount of rent that I've paid is like 2K a month, and this is all US dollars, by the way. I would say like just make sure that you have a pretty conscious budget around that. Around like 30 to 40% of your salary might go into rent. That's very standard in New York, but it's very non-standard in Australia. In terms of other things to set up, right, getting a bank account, go down to your local Chase and just set up a bank account. You get a Freedom Unlimited card, which is the very basic credit card. It's just the way to start. Credit scores are super important in America, very different to like Australia, and you need to start building your credit history like almost immediately if you think that you might have a long-term future in the US, because credit scores determine how much you can get for a loan, for a car, for a house, etc., all those sorts of things. So go and set up a bank account and get your first credit card ASAP. I know that your AMEX credit card and credit score from Australia can actually transfer over to the US equivalent. So if you've already got an AMEX, that's fantastic, and do that and use that. Unlike Australia, there really is no universal healthcare here in the US, and so a lot of expats actually either get health insurance through their employer or have to pay for it themselves. Let's say you're trying to find your own plan to do. I personally use Cigna. A lot of expats use Cigna Health. They tend to give the best health insurance packages for the best price, but you should try and figure out what's best for you in your situation. Be aware of things called like deductibles, which is actually how much money you need to spend on your health insurance before your insurance kicks in. So if you have a high deductible plan, so let's say like it's $1,000 deductible, that means you're literally going to be out of pocket $1,000 before your health insurance even kicks in, even if you're paying like a few $100s a month for your health insurance. And that's honestly pretty wild to me, but it's just the norm here. It is expensive, and part of your budget will go towards that in terms of health insurance. Let's say that you finally set up your life in New York and you're ready to go and meet some people. Honestly, your best way to make friends super quickly and early on is to reach out to mutual friends and join a social gym. There's a lot of like high rocks gyms and class activities that you can go in New York. And if you just like want to meet Americans, honestly, go to bars, go get drunk with them, have fun, make some friends. I can't wait to see you in New York, and hopefully we can go grab a coffee or a beer together. Good luck.